Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Book Connections. I'm Kristen.
And I'm Elaine.
Today, we decided that we thought it'd be fun if we shared about our favorite series and or just books that we really love that we want to kind of put up there and promote a little bit, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I how I did my list was just like repeat readings that I follow up, or always when I like feel like a cozy moment I want to get back into.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I did mine. I wrote like Wattpad books that I love because I've read so many on there. And then other books, and then what I'm currently reading and what I've recently read. So,
Yeah. I have a current Mercury retrograde has me. Um the series that I'm currently reading is on my list, so I will be speaking about that one too.
good. Yeah, I'm excited. I would love to hear about your favorites. So, what do you have on your list? And did you like write out like what kind of tropes they are or like what types,
So
genres?
when I was going through it, it's obvious fantasy,
Mhm.
and dystopian world. So, but I love the number one book, and I would even say that he's one of my favorite authors is Brandon Sanderson. I don't know if you've
Oh,
read any of his books, but
not yet.
um, the Mistborn trilogy is one of my favorite books. It is epic and it is very dense and um a good read, and you go peaks and valleys in this book of like, yay, we're doing it, and then sinking to like the depths of the ocean of like what the fuck just happened,
Yeah.
and and like that emotional roller coaster. But I absolutely love this series. It is the first three books, so it is a trilogy, and those focus on Vin and her counterpart and other people in the series, and then it expands into like, I think it's 100 or 200. It's like years later, and then it's like another set of four books.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about Brandon Sanderson. I think like
Yeah.
even in the like on TikTok, there's that community called Book Talk, and I see
Hmm.
people mention him all the time. So I
Oh,
figured his stuff was really good.
yeah, and it there's like he has in one of his series there's a character called Wit, and he just like speaks nonsense, but it is like makes sense too at the same time, and like that's part of his um thing, and it just, I don't know, I love his characters, I love his storylines, I love his arcs. His characters and his world building is like, I don't know. It's just amazing how he is able to do it because you can actually see everything and how it is developed. And in the Mistborn series, basically, Vin is an orphan. She does get taken in by Kelsier, who is like an activist, kind of ruffian hero kind of thing. And
Mhm.
he raises her, and it's just they decided to overthrow the Lord Ruler, who is like the tyrant who is keeping everybody oppressed, and there's like um classes, and she is obviously not of the wealthier class, and they're kind of at the bottom, and they take on the Lord Ruler, and then you find out a bunch of shit, and it just all goes down, and it's definitely, it's a lot, and I really enjoy the series. It does um end on a kind of sad and happy note.
Mhm.
So it's kind of also like realistic in the way that you don't always get what you want, or like things don't work out how they envisioned it, and it's like it's definitely a roller coaster.
Yeah, that does sound like a good one. I'll have to make sure I check that out then, because I think I remember you recommending me The Mistborn,
Mhm.
and, so it's on my TBR, but it's so long, I haven't gotten to it yet. But now
I
I'm gonna
know
have to,
that.
like, bump it up on the list.
Though I know that series, that feel like that series that like where I just keep adding to my wish
Yeah.
list, and I'm like, but I do find that sometimes when you finally get to the book that you've been putting off, it has some like correlation to what you is happening in your life. Have you ever noticed that? Where
Yeah.
it's like, oh, you know what? I wouldn't have been ready to listen or hear this if it wasn't until right now. I don't know. That's kind of
Yeah.
always how I've kind of found that to happen. Any book that I've like slowly gone off and like, let me just look at this fluff right here. And then I come back to the denser books and I'm like, you know what? This has a meaning to it that I did not think I was going to find to it.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do that a lot. I do like, especially with nonfiction books
Mm-hmm.
and spiritual books, I find that a lot where I'm like, "Oh, I needed this right now because this is what I'm actually working on."
Yeah. Exactly.
So one of mine, obviously, we know I'm a huge fan of the Emily Wilde series, and we
Mm-hmm.
talked all about it, so I don't have to go back over it again. But another series that I really love, and I don't know the series name, I just know the two-book title because it's a duology, is Star Mother and Star Father by Charlie N. Holmberg.
Okay.
And um, they're not too long. They're pretty short books, but they're fantasy, and I would say that they are kind of cozy a little bit. There is happy
Guys.
endings, and um, basically, like, it's this kind of dystopian society where um, women are chosen to give birth to a star in the sky, but through that process, the women die because of it.
Oh wow.
And it's the star father that has to like, impregnate them, obviously, to create the star. And so he's gotten so detached because he, like, got too attached to them, and it was too hard to see all the women keep dying. And so he's just, like, very detached as a person, a god, I guess you could say. And there's this one unique woman who gets chosen, and for some reason or another she ends up surviving. And because she survives, she gets to meet the embodiment of dusk and dawn, and they kind of are trying to make their way back to her people so that way she could see her family again. And so it's a really good book. That's the first one.
That's
um,
cool.
and then the second one is about another woman who has to go on to do the same thing. She has to go birth the star, and she is able to survive him too. Because I think he's the son, but I'm not sure. I can't really
Okay.
remember. Um, but she's able to survive him too, and so they kind of go along together. And it's an interesting world that was built, a very
Mm-hmm.
interesting concept, and it's one that I hadn't really read before, so that's what I really liked about it. And I loved that there were happy endings, and there were, like, emotional investments throughout the
Mm-hmm.
story, but in a way that, like, it all turns out fine, and so it's not, like, big,
Yeah.
ups and downs or anything like that. So I definitely recommend that one for
Yeah.
another kind of cozy fantasy read. There's no smut in that one. Funnily enough, my favorite 2 series, there's no smut in 'em.
That's funny. Well, it does sound like an interesting concept, and how, because that's always what is amazing to me, that the authors can like bring a world to life and like a whole like society and concept and everything about it. So that's pretty cool.
Mhm.
Um, the so I'll do a standalone book that I always like to go to. Is It's called Entreat Me by Grace Draven,
Mm.
and that one is a spin on Beauty and the Beast.
Ooh.
So it is a love story. It does have fantasy and magic in it, and I it's always it's It's a lovely story that has a good love story in it too, where it's not just like they fall in love and or like they're enemies at first, or it's not like that normal. And there's a lot of laughing and joking in there, and kind of smack talk. I don't That's not quite it, but teasing on a sense of like just jabbing at each other just for fun, and like
Yeah.
kind of like a love language in that sense. And it is the main character is Linda, and Ballard. And he's like the lord of the castle, which he's the beast in the story. And he does get cursed, and he gets cursed by his former wife. And so it's just like that unraveling and how they come together, because you would think that the sister would be the part of the love story, but that's not it. They're part of like breaking the curse, but there's like two parts of the curse that they have to break. And it's just like that coming, uh that undoing of that curse, and them falling in love. So
Mm.
it's a really cute story. It's a standalone. You don't need more than that. And it's always like fun to read. And there is smut in that one, but it's tasteful.
Yeah, that's so cool. I'm gonna have to read that because I love Beauty and the Beast was one of my favorite Disney movies. I always wanted to be
Hmm.
Belle with her libraries of books
Hmm.
just everywhere. So I would definitely read that, yeah.
Yeah.
I have a um Beauty and the Beast retelling, but it's more erotica than than plot. But it's one that comes to mind that I've read, so I'm like, I need more, like, plot than just that all the time.
Yeah.
So, I think I would really like that one, yeah.
Yeah. No, it's
That's
a cute story. And there, like I said, there is smut, but it's done in a tasteful, like them falling in love way.
yeah.
Um versus just to be erotic, or
Yes, yeah. Just to fill the whole thing with
yeah.
nothing but yeah.
Mhm.
Um, Let me look at my list. I have one, that I'll mention just because uh it was a book that I read back in like middle school, I think, that really just stuck with me. And it was my first dystopian novel and really kind of fueled my passion for reading. It's called, I think it's The Forest of Hands and Teeth or A Forest of Hands and Teeth. I'll have to look it up.
That sounds
But,
familiar.
and it's by Carrie Ryan. And it's basically about this young woman. I think she's a teenager, maybe like 16 or something, and they live in this society that tried to, like, when zombies started to happen, they kind of locked themselves into these little societies, and they only had these like small pathways to get to the other ones.
Hmm.
And then over time they had to lock those too because some would get overrun with zombies. And so it's just about that. And I think like her mom, if I remember right, goes to check on one of those places or to take supplies to one of those places and
Hmm.
never comes back, something like that. So it's a really interesting series. It was a good one. That was the first one that kind of got me into reading all of these books. So I liked that one a lot. I haven't read it in a long time. I
Hmm.
feel like I should read it again and see if I still like it, but
Yeah, that one sounds funny because there's another book. It's not on my list, but it made me remember. But oh, White Trash Zombie. Have you ever read that book?
oh, uh-uh.
That one is it's pretty funny. Basically, she gets turned into a zombie.
Mm.
She's like she calls herself White Trash, and it is like basically her life kind of becomes better as being a zombie, and it's like her
Oh,
story of struggling and getting to know things. So I have to look up that one.
Yeah, I would
But
read that. That
because
sounds
I
good.
was like, I haven't read a zombie book in a while.
Me either. Mhm.
But when you mentioned that, I was like, oh yeah, I used to love that
Me too,
that
yeah.
series. Because it kind of reminds me of what is that? I Heart Zombies show that was on for a
Oh,
little
yeah,
bit.
yeah, mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was
Um,
big into all the zombie stuff. I had, like, that zombie survival manual guide, and I had, like, all these different T-shirts and figurines and all kinds of stuff, so I was big into that for a while.
Oh yeah, so Diana Rowland is the author of White Trash Zombie, and
Okay.
I don't think the series actually finished, because it was kind of going on, and I would need to check it, but like the
Mhm.
titles are My Life as a White Trash Zombie, even white trash zombies get the blues, and so it's just like it's funny, and it's all about her recovery basically, and that
Yeah,
basically becoming a zombie is kind of makes her life better and stuff. And she was like, I think an alcoholic or a drug addict, I can't remember.
okay. That sounds
But
cute though, and funny, yeah.
yeah, yeah, it is pretty funny, and I listened to it and on Audible, and the author had a good like Louisianan accent. It was
Ooh,
good.
yeah. I love
Um,
Louisiana accents, so
yeah,
I would
so
love that, yeah.
yeah, so thank you, Kristen. You helped me remember the
I
series.
know.
I forgot,
Yeah.
but because I didn't have zombie books, but yeah, we because even when you started to talk about it, I started to think of oh my God, my brain went blank. What is the popular series that was on TV for a while?
Oh, was it the I Heart Zombie?
No, not the I
No.
Heart Zombie, but the one with
Oh, what The Walking Dead.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Mhm.
Yeah, my sisters were really into that.
Yeah, I was for a while, and then, um, I don't remember. I think there was something, like, big that happened,
They killed Glenn.
yeah, I think so, and then I was like, "I'm getting bored," so then I quit watching
Yeah.
it. Mhm. That's so funny. So what are one of your other favorites?
So I did add so since we're on TV series, I did add the Outlander series, and I read this
Ooh.
when like way back, and some of those books I haven't watched the series. I would definitely say if you were watching the series, read the books.
Mhm.
They are another epic journey, and an epic one that will take you up and down, and
Right.
um bad stuff happens to them and they overcome it, and um I think like one this will be a spoiler, but if you've been watching the series, is when they hang Roger, like I just started crying in the book because it was like so close, and like I just crazy. It's like the amount of emotions that you go through
Yeah.
for these characters, and even her um character development and the story, very beautifully told. And um even though they're epic books, they're not so dense that you can't get through. I just feel like they are more like that emotional roller coaster of everything is good and then some shit happens, and then even the part with the baby, I feel so bad for the baby. But it's just one of those things where it's kind of like another life that you're living, and you just go through those motions. So I love the Outlander series.
It is really popular. I know so many people who have just watched it, and I think maybe two of my other friends have read it too, and they also really love it. They said the books are just as good as the show. They think that they're
Mm-hmm.
both really great and
Mm-hmm.
well done. So, yeah, I have the first book that I got at a used book sale.
Mm-hmm.
I just haven't read it yet, but I keep my list is just forever long. So hopefully I get
Yeah.
to it at some point in the next like
Yeah.
decade. But
Well, it's a epic book. I don't even know how many pages, what is it, like 500 pages? All of her books are like those big,
It's
huge, thick
long.
ones
Yep.
that are like 5 to 1,000 pages long. And
Yeah.
but definitely worth the time.
Mhm.
And the story development is beautiful. And it's basically like these people's lives that you get invested in. So and it goes generations too, because it's like
Right.
so
Yeah.
it's
Because it
a good
follows
story.
her daughter at some point, doesn't it?
Yeah, there's a lot happening. So first it's like her and Jamie, and then they have a daughter, and then they have to go back to the future because the daughter, basically the granddaughter has a heart condition that,
Oh.
because Claire is a doctor and she
Mm.
can't fix it with the modern, well, with the medicine that they had, and I think it's the 1700, 1800s, because I do know they go through probably like the 1800s. So she doesn't have the facilities to care for the heart condition, which it in modern times is an easy fix. So they have to go back to the future or present time to fix the birth defect of the daughter, and then they it's like that. I don't know, because it kind of goes into like how time is relevant, or how time all time is happening together,
Yeah.
and that's kind of also what I like, because there was like a mystical aspect of that. And so not only like you kind of feel like whispers or threads between the worlds, and so then they're dealing with problems in the present time, and then they're kind of like ambushed and have to jump back into the past, and that's the last book that I had read. And so then it's like, who is trying to capture there in the present time, and like unfolding of that as well, because there's also like, I think it goes back to like the third book where Gillis, which is the witch,
Mm.
she time travels too.
Okay.
um and let me know if I'm getting too much into this, but
No,
but
you're good.
she time travels too, and I would say that was one of my favorite books. And it's kind of like they realize that she came from their present future, or like I would say the 1960s, 1970s, and
Okay.
traveled to Scotland as well. And like there's a society after them, or like looking for people who can time travel, because
Mm.
even in that book with Gillis, they, I believe they end up uh in in the Caribbean, and they find another portal that they can go through too.
Okay.
So it's kind of like not only do the stones help them travel, but they're trying to also figure out, and there's like something um with the stone, and there's like a spin-off book about Roger's father, and they figure out that Roger's father is able to also time travel too, and he was like a I believe in World War II. So they figure out, because they never found him, but they figure out that he traveled back into the
Mm.
past as well. So it's just
That's
really,
interesting.
it's all really interesting, because it definitely makes you think about time not being linear and being
Right.
like happening all at once. Like we kind of know that is happening.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That is cool.
Yeah.
I didn't know that because I thought that, I mean, from all the previews that I see of the show, I just assumed it was only about Jamie and Claire,
Yeah.
and then eventually about their daughter, but I didn't know it had like a whole lot of other stuff in it.
Yeah.
So that's
Well,
pretty
it's
cool.
like one of those epic books that then there's like 30 million characters happening to at the same
Yes.
time.
Yeah.
And you let like you keep focusing on the like 4 or 6 main ones, but it's like just that web and
Mhm.
that spinning out.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Mhm.
I might have to bump that one up on my list too, because I'm right now I'm reading the obviously the Discovery of Witches, that one.
Uh-huh.
And so the time travel aspect part of it's just so interesting to me. And it's obviously right now I'm doing a lot of like with spirituality, doing a lot of portal work and stuff. So like
Mhm.
we just talked about how it always comes up right at the time that you need
Mhm.
it and you need that information. So I think that'd be a good
Yeah,
one to read.
because I had just finished before we started even considering the doing this or coming up
Mhm.
with this. I had finished the Discovery Witches, and the when she learns to weave her with her strings,
Right.
with her, like, I was just like, this is just kind of like life and you deciding what you're going to weave into your
Yep.
reality and what you're going to allow. And so like a lot of things came up with that. That series is one of my favorite series. I
Mhm.
didn't put it on my list because we were going to talk about it, so I was like, I'll
Right.
skip it. But since it came up, I will say something.
Yes. Yeah.
But yeah,
Let's see. I'll highlight just this Wattpad series. He
okay.
did publish it. It's available on Amazon, so I know that it's available there. And I plan on actually buying the books because I loved them so well. But there's this like historical romance series. The first book is called Silent Night, and it's by Robert Thayer. Thayer. It's Thier, and I think like his Wattpad name is Rob Thayer. Um, but it's so well done. The two main characters, they have that dynamic, that like witty banter where they're like always at each other, and they're just always like basically getting one up on another.
Hmm.
The main character that you follow is this woman who and it's set way back when like women were forced to wear dresses, they couldn't wear pants, they couldn't work jobs and things like that, they had no independence. And she's just very much not that way. She's like, no, I want to be able to wear pants, I want to be able to be me and do what I want and make my own money, and I don't want to have to get married and all this stuff. So she dresses up as her uncle to go apply for a job, and then goes to work for this guy. And he's basically like a wolf in sheep's clothing. Like everybody fears him. He's like, but she doesn't really understand that he's to be feared or why. And he's so rich and he's got all this money and all this power and all these connections and influences, and she like just waltzes in there to be a secretary. And so once he discovers her true identity, he helps her keep it a secret because she's the best secretary that he's had, and he also kind of likes that she puts up with his shit.
Hmm.
So he keeps her, but tells her she has to keep dressing up as a man. And then eventually like it just they go on all these different adventures together because he actually like travels the world and does all these other crazy things all the time
Hmm.
that you wouldn't even expect. He's basically like Indiana Jones
Oh
almost.
wow.
So he just does all these different things and she's always going with him on these trips. But eventually they fall in love. And it is like the slowest slow burn series that I have ever read because I think it's like, I swear it was like book 4 before they finally kissed for the first time or something. So it's a slow one, but it's a really good one. I love the humor in it is great. That series made me laugh out loud quite a few times.
I
So
love series that make you laugh and make you just because I think that's why I also like the Entreat Me, the Beauty and the Beast one.
yeah.
Because it just made me laugh and just like anything that could make you laugh and make you feel like, oh, I can totally see this happening. It's
Yes.
always a good feeling. And I do apologize, my dogs heard
Oh, you're
something. I
fine.
started barking. So next time I'll mute myself. I forgot to do
Oh,
that. I was like,
I didn't
ah.
even hear him actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Sorry. Um
I know I keep hearing my daughter like screeching in the background, and I'm like, how much is this picking up?
I don't hear her, but they heard something and they all like popped up like
Maybe they hear her. Yeah.
ah. um so that story actually reminds me of another book that I put on my list, or
Mhm.
I maybe I didn't. Okay, well, but I remember it. So it's a Daughter of Fortune.
Mm.
I do not recall the author's name, but I know this was. I probably read this in high school or something like that. It was on the Oprah Winfrey Book Club, if that means
Okay.
anything back in the day. That's how old it is.
Yeah.
But it is it's kind of like a love story too. And then she dresses as a man for a little bit because it is back in the day. And it's just like that story of her surviving. She comes from, I believe, Chile, to the United States, to San Francisco.
Mm.
She meets a another immigrant who is basically is part of like the railway building and stuff, and this is them coming together, not liking each other at first, being like she is a headstrong woman, she's trying to do stuff, and he is a I believe he is Chinese, and he lost his wife, um, because they also talked about the foot binding, and that
Oh yeah.
like that's how, but she couldn't because her feet were bound. She like something happened and she couldn't take care of herself, and so she, I believe, passed away. But it is a beautiful love story because it's basically like him realizing also that there is more to a woman than just being delicate and taken care of, and like understanding that, and both of them kind of just relaxing on their ways,
Mhm.
of like, I don't know, cultural ways that have like kind of impressed them or like held them back, or like to see it's something new from a different perspective. So it's a lovely story, and I enjoyed it. I have probably reread it a couple of years ago to get a point of view from being an adult, but I it's always a story that sticks with me. I
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. That sounds really good. I like that there's actual character growth in that one.
Hmm.
That's really, yeah, I would like that one. Because you don't get
Yeah.
that a lot. Like you get obviously like the plot and then the characters like do grow a little bit based on their decisions, but nothing like
Hmm.
that. That's
Yeah.
usually kind of more rare in books
Yeah.
these days. Mhm. Um, I have a couple of um, nonfiction books. I love Braiding Sweetgrass by Dr. Robin Wall Kimmerer,
Okay.
and Notable Native People by Adrienne Keene. So those are both written by two Indigenous people.
Hmm.
And Braiding Sweetgrass is Robin's kind of like recollection of stories and experiences in her life that kind of show like not only the beauty of nature but the spirit of nature, and why
Hmm.
it's so important to respect it and to build the right relationship with it. And so it's kind of like it goes into detail about that, and it's just really inspiring, a very great read I think for a lot of people,
Hmm.
and it's very popular obviously for a reason. And then the notable native people, that's by Adrienne Keene. She covers like just different indigenous people throughout history and shares their story and a little bit about them and stuff. And I think there are even some people that she directly interviewed for the book on some of the pages, but
Hmm.
it was a really inspiring read too, like just to read about other people and accomplishments that they did and how they were important to not only history but to their people. So it's a really good one. Mhm.
Yeah, that sounds interesting. I didn't put any. I'm all fantasy right now.
No, that's okay. I know. I was like, I don't know what else I should include, so I tried to think of everything.
Though that does remind me that I haven't read it yet, but it is on my to read list, and it is In My Own Moccasins by Helen
Ooh.
Knott.
Mhm.
So I it's a memoir, so I'll be reading that one and I'll let you know. But it's about like it's her it's her story, and
Mhm.
I'm just looking at it and just like basically reclaim. Part of it says reclaiming her own spirit. So I am should be hopefully able to read that one shortly, but that one is on my to read soon list. And that reminded me with the stories because I do think she does bring up stories and go well, it's her memoir.
Yeah.
Um, so that one reminds me of that, or like, that was on my list to read.
Mhm.
And then let me see, where do I want to go? I did read the Octavia E. Butler Parable of the
Mm.
Sower. That one was very interesting. I think we talked about it briefly.
Mhm.
I have the next book on hold with Libby. Um, but that one, it was kind of crazy because it did feel like current times of have you read it yet, or is it on your to read?
I just started it, yeah, the
Okay,
audiobook.
okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, because it's like current times, we just had the fire in LA. I am in LA, and it not necessarily the same because in this those people who are setting fires are like kind of zealots of a different order of
Mhm.
I think they call themselves the painted people. And they are about basically eating the rich, and they take from people, they burn people down, and like fire is kind of all consuming to them. And I think they even burn themselves at some point because they kind of are so out of it on the drugs that they're taking.
Mhm.
And it's just basically her story of growing up in this dystopian world, or she doesn't even see it like that because it's basically her world
Yeah.
and of what she knows. And then it also has a spiritual aspect of like, I would say she's kind of channeling or just like what is life, or like how, because her father is a preacher, and then how he preaches about God, and then that she can actually see that part of his issue is he's holding on to that old world where it's
Mm.
like they're not in that world anymore. That world is gone. Like what was is no longer, and it's now this. And so it's just her preparing for surviving, and stuff happens like it always does, and then she has to travel on her own, and then she starts collecting people. I won't give too much away since you're reading it, but yeah, I enjoyed that book, and it just made me really think about, current times and who you're giving your power to and what is actually worth your time, and kind of just like surviving. Like, are you surviving just to live? Are you surviving to thrive? Are you surviving to make a change? So there was a lot to think about
Mhm.
after reading that book.
Yeah, I love those books that get you thinking and
Mm-hmm.
get you like really contemplating your future and like how you have a direct hand in everything. So I love those. I'm excited to finish it. Mhm. Uh, I was gonna share some of what I am have like recently read,
Mm-hmm.
and I won't share too much about them, but I did just finish A Lady of Rooksgrave Manor by Catherine Moon, and that's for those who are into monster smut. So plenty of that in that
It
book.
sounds good.
It was
Well, the
good.
smut sounds good too.
Yeah, yeah. It was interesting. It was worth a read, yeah. And then Lights Out by Navessa Allen. I actually listened to the audiobook on that one because I
Mm-hmm.
heard it was so much better than the book. And I'm glad that I did. That's one of the books that's made me laugh out loud, and it's a
Mm-hmm.
stalker romance.
Oh
And
wow.
so it did actually make me laugh quite a lot. And then I also recently read Welsh Fairies by Mara Starling, and that's nonfiction. It's just about the Welsh culture and their relationship with fairies and their mythology and stuff. So that was a good one for anybody who's into that stuff. So Is there
That's
anything that you've recently, like, finished that
well, what's funny is so I completely forgot about this
Mhm,
series, the October Day series by Shannon McGuire,
mhm.
and it is about basically Faye, and she's kind of like a Faye detective.
Ooh,
So she doesn't well, she always is like, "I specialize in lost things, like lost children, lost items, lost kingdoms, lost this," and so it is a story where, she's basically a changeling,
mhm,
which means she's half human, half, fae,
mm,
and she eventually finds out that she's actually a daughter of a first, so that means from Oberon or Titania or Maeve.
ooh,
So that's what they call, and her mom is um going through some stuff. They just keep calling her a shell of herself, and it definitely seems like because Toby actually is the main character, which is October Day, and they call her Toby for short.
mhm.
She ends up going missing for 14 years, but that's because she's turned into a fish. And I'm not giving anything away. This is like in the synopsis of the story.
Okay.
She's turned into a fish, and so she's a fish for 14 years.
Oh my
And
gosh.
this is about her when she comes back from her being turned into a fish, like what the aftermath of her life, because she had a 2-year-old child too at the time, and so
Oh,
now the child
no.
is and she had a fiance, and so like that human life that she had is gone. And
The
then
drama.
yeah, and then it's kind of like her deciding, is she human or is she fae, and then this is just like a slow creep of her actually accepting her fayness, because there's also like um a division, and I could say that as being mixed, where you are never really part of both community,
Yeah. Mhm,
you're mixed, but either side you're always a little too of this much or too of that.
mhm.
So I can see that, and it's kind of, she's, I don't say clinging to her humanity. um she appreciates her humanity, but she is noticing that in the series that she is creeping more towards Faye,
Mhm.
which, as being a changeling, she's like, I don't want to, because I am, she's also being a changeling. Basically the Fae always look down on her too.
Yep.
So it's kind of like that whole development. But each story or each book is basically some sort of detective work, some sort of case solving that she's trying to figure out.
Yeah.
So it's always fun because
I
I
would
do
like that.
I do like mysteries, and I like fantasy mysteries and dramas.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I was thinking that's actually probably gonna be my next read because that
Yeah.
sounds so good.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I've been like consuming those. I had I had basically read most of the series, but because there's new books out that I haven't read, I'm doing a re-listen.
Mhm.
And yeah, I think there's that's one of those other series that kind of go on for a while. So I want to say there's like 20 books or so. But
Wow.
they're all fun. They're all
Yeah,
good. And they don't feel like repeaters.
that's good.
Where yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, that's how I kind of felt with, like, the Anita Blake, which you and I have said
Hmm.
time and time again, is, like, it gets to a point where it just feels like the same old thing. So as
Yeah.
long as it stays pretty different, I really like those series. Mhm.
Yeah. Well, it does feel like Anita Blake, she had a lot of cases that were like gruesome,
Mm.
but then you got into the smut, and then it just became all only
Right.
that all the time. And but this one, there is love, there is stories, there are heartbreak, and it's a good series, and it is different every single time. Like and you also kind of get, because it feels like an overall web of something, and you're getting nuggets of what are like pieces to that puzzle to see that actual bigger picture of what
Right.
she's actually really uncovering. So, which I feel like there's something along the lines of something with Oberon and Titania and Maeve and what actually happened with them because they left and just
Yeah.
left their little children to do whatever they want. So
Yeah, that does sound good. I'm gonna have to read that. Yeah, especially because like right now I'm reading. I'm always reading like books by Morgan Daimler, um, who's a very well known fairy scholar. So I love to read like fantasy fairy series
hmm
and just kind of like look for the nuggets of like where things match up. And I haven't read that many that have Titania and Oberon and Maeve in it, so I think that would be
yeah,
good. Mm.
yeah, they're always looked as like father mother. So
Mm.
it is interesting. There is a book that is I'll probably have to look it up, but there are a couple series that have Tuta the Dannon and Oberon and Maeve. But I have to look it up because I hadn't gone that back that, but I know there's a, it's going to drive me crazy. I'm going to have to look it up, but I know there's one where she's turned into a swan for a little bit. And then it's all her story about that. And she's the only girl. And then the seventh son is like cursed and stuff like that. Like it's interesting. I'm gonna have to look that up. But I read that so many years ago. This is what happens when you get old, guys.
Yeah.
You start collecting stuff that it
I
uh,
when I was writing my list of these books, I was like, "Oh, now I gotta actually remember the books." Like the last one I have on like my favorites list is the Aspect and Anchor series by Ruby Dixon, and it's basically like there's these different gods, like a god of wrath, a god of or just different things, and they it's like the gods are misbehaving, so the all father splits off like their misbehaving aspects of themselves and sends those aspects to earth. The aspect, each one, there's like four of each god, and it's usually like hedonism and just a couple of a few others, three others, but it's like those different god, it's the god but four times, which can get a little confusing because I'm like I know I'm not explaining it super well, but each one has to pick a human to anchor to. And so in the series, these women kind of get transported back in time to this time and become the anchors for these gods. And the gods, like those bad aspects of themselves, have to kill the other ones to be the last one standing, and then that last one standing is the one that gets to go back and join the full like god and become whole again. So it's a really interesting series. It's kind of dystopian, kind of fantasy, kind of romance. So it's like this mashup, but
yeah.
it's really interesting. But yeah,
Well, yeah, the kind of I want to call it like a shard, but that breaking of
yeah,
pieces and
the
city. Yeah,
fractals and stuff, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
That's pretty crazy and cool at the same time. So
I know. And it was really interesting to think about when I was reading it. I was like, this is actually a really cool concept, a really complex concept. So I thought the series that she did was pretty good.
yeah,
Mhm.
that sounds familiar too. But has she written other books?
Ruby Dixon, yeah, she's the one
Yeah.
that wrote the I think the Ice Planet Barbarian, that alien romance series.
Okay,
Let
I'm
me.
gonna have to look that up. This is what happens as we start talking, and then I get other ideas and more books to,
Mhm.
to
Yeah,
add.
yeah, she's the one that wrote the Ice Planet Barbarians series, and it's that aliens romance where a group full of like human women are being trafficked and they're going to get sold off to some other planet, and they crash land on this one planet and start making relationships with the aliens that live there because their planet was starting to die off, all the women. um,
Okay.
so then they're able to help repopulate kind of that planet, so that
That
one's
sounds
interesting as
I,
well.
I always want to, because I started watching Handmaid's Tale, and I was like, that's like bringing that up, and I'm like, this doesn't make any sense to
Yeah.
me. Like, I mean, but you also have to realize that people are, if we give our power away to people who are willing to do that to us, then that's what's going to happen. Like, these are just like ideas from people, but interesting.
Mhm.
Um, What I have on a lighter note, I have the I have the Wandering Inn series by Pirate ABBA.
Okay.
And so this started out as like a I don't know what it's technically called, but basically she has like a Patreon, and I think it's two people,
Mhm.
but I wasn't part of the Patreon. I just kind of caught it in when it started building, and she posts basically digital chapters every, I
Okay.
want to say, like every couple weeks or something, and then
Mhm.
when the chapters are done or a book is done, then I believe they self-published their first one, but then they might be on Podium Audio now, but
Mhm.
it is basically like a video game.
Oh.
um, so they're in a video game world,
Mhm.
but the people who basically people from our world get transported to the video game world.
Yeah,
And so there's
that's
people
cool.
from Earth running around in this world that is has magic, drakes, wizards, dragons, what is my brain right now, different basically mythical people
Mhm.
in it, and like the earthers are, it's also kind of medieval in a way that they're not used to living like this, so it's all about them finding, oops, hit my mic,
Mhm.
finding their way in this world. And it's funny because everyone is like, it's like a video game, and they're like, what? Everyone from that world is like, what? And the common language is English, so they're like, yeah, that's like a video game.
Yeah.
um it is another, so basically the main character I would say is Aaron Solstice.
Ooh, okay.
And she becomes the innkeeper, and she eventually like levels up to, I think where I'm at in the story, she's like almost level 40. And basically the powers of this world, trying to collect the earthers and
Mhm.
start to use their knowledge of the other world to kind of start gaining power in this world. And it's funny, it is epic, it does make your, I obviously like the emotional roller coasters where you have to get invested. um and like it's just her making her way, and there's other sometimes the books shift point of views because there's just like a lot happening,
Right.
and it mostly focuses on the other cruisers. And there is also because in this story the old gods are dead, and so they say like there's no gods, but then Aaron actually meets one of the gods, or actually she meets three of the gods on the winter solstice. And like, you obviously, they're, sorry if this is like confusing, but
No, you're good.
but they were brought here to fix something in this this game world. But I think there's a bigger picture as to why that the gods are awakening too. And then basically
Mhm.
like powers that have been asleep for a while are now awakening. And there's a kingdom, it sounds, because they're also on a flat, it seems like they're on a flat planet, which doesn't make
Right.
any sense, but because they're like, she's trying to explain like if you take a ship around, you'll like go around, and they're like, no, if you take a ship, you just fall off the planet. It's
Yeah.
just like what the fuck? So there's a kingdom in Rare that is like at the edge of this planet.
Mm.
Um that demons are coming out of. And so like
Okay.
the king has been fighting them, and there's more happening than what is happening in her little world, and you just
Right.
see her getting connected to the bigger and bigger picture of everything. So
Yeah.
yeah,
That sounds
it's
really interesting though.
yeah, I randomly picked it up. It was like I always buy when Audible has some sales. I'm like, okay, this random series sounds good, and um, I I really enjoy it, and I pick them up every time I see them now, when they come available. And I know she has it on her website,
Mhm.
and she's so much farther advanced than where I'm at with the audiobooks, but I also don't have time to sit and like pick up
Right.
and um do her Patreon. I'll just support her by buying her books or
Yeah.
or
That's dope.
his books. Yeah.
Mhm. That's good. I'll have to that's I mean, it sounds really good to me, actually, I would read that, so I'll
Mm-hmm.
have to I think I'll probably try the audiobooks just because that sounds like the easiest way to support them.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, because I don't even know. They might be in print. I just
Mhm.
mostly do audiobooks because it's easier to like walk the
Right.
dogs and listen, clean and listen, and just
Mhm.
drive and listen. So
Right, yeah. Yeah, when you have a lot of idle time, you might as well.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So, um, I will say I'm like what I'm currently reading is obviously the Discovery of Witches series. I know it's called the All Souls series,
Mm-hmm.
but I've never heard anybody call it by that name, so
Yeah.
I just go with the Discovery of Witches. And then the Parable of the Sower.
Yeah, I think
Um,
it's sour, but I always want to say sour or solar
I
or
know,
something. Yeah.
yeah, I do too. And then I read manga.
Hmm.
So I'm reading the Apothecary Diaries series
Oh,
right
I
now.
haven't heard of that. I'll have
Mhm.
to check that out. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cute so far. It's about like this girl, she was an apothecary's daughter and like was learning the trade herself. And one day while she was and like where she lives, they help the women at the pleasure district a lot, so she has a
Mhm.
close relationship with them as well.
Mhm.
And then but she was out harvesting herbs and she got snatched by traffickers and sold to the palace. So then now she has to live in the palace as a food taster,
Mhm.
where she tastes the food to make sure there's no poison so it doesn't kill the concubine
Oh,
that
wow.
she's under. And it's good because she's experienced with tasting poisons. So it's just a quirky little series where like she has this beef with this guy who's like kind of her boss, but they're like starting to build feelings for each other and stuff,
Mhm.
and so it's cute. Yeah, it's
That's
really
cute.
popular right now because they're making the show for it. They're
Mhm.
putting out an episode every week of the second season. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, it's
I'll
going on right now. Mhm.
I'll have to check that out. The manga I've been reading has been going on for like, I don't know, 15 years.
Yeah,
Or
a long time.
like they're just and this is like a slow burn too. But it's just like a cutesy one. I usually read cutesy manga just because
Me
it's
too.
like a little feel good, pick me up.
Hmm.
But that one is Skip Beat, which I think I've told you about. But
Yeah. Hmm.
basically, the main character is done dirty, and she decides to enter showbiz because the person who um basically broke her heart, hurt her feelings, and trampled her soul, according to her, is a singer, and now her goal is to like um basically become a bigger star and outshine him. But then as she starts getting into it, she starts falling in love with somebody else, even though she like totally swore off people and is like, no. And she's like completely oblivious for I don't even know how many years of how much she is in love with this person, and just like, no, he's just my senpai. And like, no, no, no. And then finally they're realizing their feelings for each other and acknowledging them. But it's funny because then they're like, but we can't actually officially date because the person she's falling in love with is a big star and he's
Mm,
afraid that she's going to get hurt. And then she's like, but this is my first love, and if I don't learn how to stand on my 2 feet, I'm just going to give everything to him, and he's going to be trampling over me too. So there is
yeah.
like a grown up aspect to that,
Mm,
um, and just like basically the hijinks of just life. So
yeah.
it's always a cute story. I like reading it, and um, I think that I think Viz publishes it, but there's like a monthly it's in which magazine? Yumi, I think.
Okay. Mhm.
Monthly. So if the author is also getting older, and her hands hurt every now and then, or she has a health problem, so sometimes we miss a month. So
Yeah.
it's eventually it will get done, hopefully.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah. But she's also author of another funny one, Tokyo Crazy Paradise. That one was like
I've
in the
heard yeah,
in
I've
the
heard of
80s,
that.
and that's like a gender bender too. And
Is it
it's hilarious though, because she's just so funny. But yeah.
yeah, I'll have to check that. I have heard the name of it, so I'll have to look into that one so I could read
Yeah.
it. Mhm.
Yeah, that one's old, but that one was funny too.
Mhm. That's so funny. So before we wrap up, do you have any other books you want to highlight or anything else that comes to mind?
No, because I feel like I'll just keep going.
Me too.
I'll just
I
keep
will too.
remembering stuff that I'm like, oh, and this one, and this one.
Yeah,
But yeah, keep
that's
reading,
okay.
guys.
Yeah, keep reading because clearly it keeps us entertained and
Yeah.
yeah, that's so fun. Um, yeah, I don't see anything else that I want to like really talk about on my list. Like I have so many, but again, I would just keep going and keep
Going.
going.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I have some more on my list, but I'm like, well, we'll just have to do another episode. So.
Yeah, yeah, we'll just save them for another one, yeah. Mhm. But thank you to everybody who listens, and we would love to know what you guys are reading, what you read that stuck with you, maybe since you were a teen, or things that you keep rereading and things that you just generally really love. So feel free to share that with us at any time because our lists are always growing and always ready for more books.
Yeah, it's like, will it be on our list or already?
Yeah.
But I love to hear about books, so yes, please share as
Mhm.
much as possible. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.